The Manitoba government is moving forward with the search of Winnipeg's Prairie Green landfill, where the remains of 2 First Nations women are thought to be buried. Morgan Harris, Marcedes Myran, Rebecca Contois, and a 4th unidentified woman known as Buffalo Woman were the victims of an admitted serial killer. The remains of Morgan Harris and Marcedes Myran are believed to be in the Prairie Green landfill, while the partial remains of Rebecca Contois were found at a different Winnipeg landfill. Police have not been able to locate the remains of Buffalo Woman. The families of Morgan Harris and Marcedes Myran say they are relieved to know the Manitoba government is fulfilling its promise.
You know, when we retrieve her and we have her, and then when we can bury her and allow her spirit to cross over, that's the most important right now.
And when we do get to bring her home, I'll be able to tell her children, we're gonna have Marcedes at home and in her resting place.
Ever since I found out, it's been nightmares every single night. I haven't had a normal sleep except for last night. Finally, I actually felt like I had a good sleep after a long time.
Wab Kinew is the Premier of Manitoba, and he joins me now from Winnipeg. Premier Kinew, it's good to see you again.
Thanks for having me back.
We spoke the day after you won the election and you committed that this landfill search would happen. Now that you finally cleared the path for it to go ahead later this summer, what was it like to tell the family members who have been pushing for this that they were going to get their wish?
Well, it was a very meaningful day, I can say that. I've met with the families before, so I've gotten to know them through this work to a certain extent. And as a result, I'm invested in their well-being, and I want to see them be well, and I want to see them be happy. And so to be able to share the news that we've been working on this landfill search since the election, we haven't been able to talk about it because of the trial, and out of respect and responsibility regarding the administration of justice, you know, we couldn't talk about these things publicly. But now that the trial is with the judge, basically, we were able to take the covers off of our plan and bring the families into what we've been working on all these months. And I have to say that it was meaningful to be able to share that news with them. There were obviously emotional moments over the course of the day that we spent together with the family of both Morgan Harris and Marcedes Myran. We were able to tour the building that's under construction that will be for their use, a healing space for them, which is going to be on site at Prairie Green. We were able to visit the landfill and show them how and where the search is going to be conducted. And then at the end of the day, we climbed up the hill, if you will, and we visited the location where we believe there remains to be. We prayed together, we spoke, and we just took in what on a personal level was a very, very meaningful moment for us, and as a result I can only imagine what it was like for them.
Help me understand that when you say you visited the location where you believe there remains to be, because we've seen in the feasibility studies and a lot of the analysis around this that it is going to be a very difficult search. Have you narrowed it down to a specific quadrant or area of Prairie Green? Okay, help me understand that.
Yeah, so if you could picture a large hill, a small mountain, if you will, we're basically looking at one side of it, one slope, and within that really only one corner of that slope. And there is a flat surface there. If you picture an area maybe the size of an Olympic swimming pool, you kind of have the order of magnitude. Now within that, due to information that was laid out in the trial, and again, the details from the trial, very disturbing, and I think it's really affected the people of Manitoba, to say nothing of the impacts on the families and how tough it must have been for them. But because of the information that has come out through the trial and through our own due diligence in doing the legwork for that, we've made a significant technical advancement in terms of where we believe there remains to be. So as a result, as we move through these 5 stages of the search, we've just completed the first stage, which was all the budgeting, the licensing, which we've approved now, the preliminary work. We're moving ahead to site prep and the other parts of stage 2. And then we're going to be doing a targeted search, basically like a practice search in one area of the landfill, so that the experts and the engineers can answer some of the technical questions that they have about what it's going to be like to work with this landfill material. And then once we get into the search proper, then we are going to be targeting one specific area. We're looking for one day in particular, May 16, 2022. And so we're going to start from there, and then we continue to broaden out the search, of course, with the hopes that we're successful in terms of bringing the loved ones home, bringing the remains home of these 2 women.
Okay, that is a more precise search than when this conversation started, right? Where there was a lack of specificity as to where the remains might be, and we saw the challenges in successfully finding them and bringing them home as the families want. So I'm not trying to be negative on this because there's still a risk that it won't be successful, right? So what do you do? What's the plan if you don't find them in this particular area?
Well, this targeted search that I'm talking about, that's the 4th stage. And we believe that starting in this area of the landfill gives us the highest probability of returning the remains of these loved ones for these 2 families. But the 5th stage, which is part of our planning, is broadening it out from that initial area to the broader zone of interest. So we've made the commitment to the families that this is going to be a very thorough search. It's going to be a very meticulous search. We're still talking about searching in this targeted area for about 5 months beginning this year, and then that broader area as necessary, and with the input of families, with the input of Indigenous leadership to help us decide how we're going to move forward into that broader search if necessary. We are prepared to go into next year, 2025, and possibly into 2026. But the bottom line is the family's desire for there to be a thorough search, the general public in Manitoba's desire for this to be responsible fiscally, responsible with regards to health and safety and environmental concerns. We're looking after all that with an eye towards sending a message to the people of Manitoba that we're a province that doesn't leave anyone behind, and sending a message to these families and to the general public that this is a place where we value everybody in our society. And if somebody goes missing, we go looking.
There's a couple of things I want to touch on in there, but first we had reaction this morning from Donna Bartlett, who I'm sure you know, the grandmother of Marcedes Myran, and her assessment of this announcement was they're going to search until they find her. That's what I got from it. They're hoping it won't take that long, but who knows? They may have to go further into the landfill, but they're going to find her. They're going to work till they get her home. It sounds like her interpretation is correct, that if you don't find Marcedes Myran, Morgan Harris, and maybe a Buffalo woman in the area you're targeting, you will go on until they're found. Is she correct in that assumption?
Well, we're going to try.
Right.
So we cannot guarantee success. We cannot guarantee that we're going to return the remains, and this is a truth that I've shared with the families. But we are going to try. And the way we've designed this search, and we're now, inviting the families in to help us run the search and, tailor the parameters of how this is going to be conducted with their input. We're doing this in a way that we believe is going to give us the best probability of delivering what they want, which is the remains of their loved one. And we've heard very emotional testimony there from Donna. We've heard other words from the Harris family as well, where they want to be able to do the ceremonies, to do the grieving, to be able to return their loved one to a place in their hearts where they're at peace. And that's what we're going to attempt with this mission.
You also mentioned the fiscal responsibility, and this was the part of the argument in your election campaign with the former Premier Stephenson and the Conservatives saying it was too expensive, because at that time the estimated cost was well over $100 million, I believe is where it landed. You've got a budget here of $40 million that you're cost sharing with the federal and your government. If you need to go over $40 million, is that something you're prepared to do, that you think you can do, depending on how the search is going?
Well, we think that this $20 million from us, $20 million from the feds is going to get us through that entire period that I just laid out for you. So going into 2025, potentially 2026 if necessary. What I would say is, based on our experience of designing the search and now bringing the families into it, I think we can say 2 things. One, Heather Stephenson and the PC government did not make a good faith attempt to try and cost this out and to try and figure out what was actually technically required to do this thing. And the second thing that we can say, which follows from that, is if Heather Stephenson and the PC government had started this search when they were asked, it could be done by now. That did not happen. That is very, very upsetting news for many people, I'm sure. But the reality of the situation is we are picking up the ball that has been dropped here, and we're going to move forward in a good way. We're going to move forward with the families. We're going to move forward with Indigenous leadership. And we're going to do so in a way that's also responsible to the other considerations that we have for the general public, whether that's on the environmental side, the fiscal side, or just the general inclination that we've heard from so many Manitobans that they just want to see compassion and a government that's willing to treat this province as one Manitoba, where everyone matters.
So this begins later this summer, and it's going to be a manual search. It's not going to be machines. Correct. So are we talking shovels, picks, like that sort of thing, like pulling apart the pile and sifting through it? Like what does a manual search for human remains in a landfill look like, Premier?
Well, it's going to be difficult work. I'm not going to say anything other than this is going to be hard work. Hard work in terms of the actual search process, but also in terms of the emotional impact that we can expect for the families and for the searchers. So this month, June 2024, landfill material is going to start to move. That's going to be for that pilot search area, that testing that I mentioned earlier. Later on, that's when we're going to move into the full-on search, if you will, of that targeted area. We expect that to take about 5 months, and then potentially we move into that fifth stage that I also outlined there. But in terms of your question of what does this look like, basically we're constructing a massive covered structure on the site of the Prairie Green landfill. We're going to remove the top layer of that slope that I was describing for you to access the targeted zone. We will be preserving that material if it needs to be searched later on. But then starting with the targeted zone, we will be pulling landfill material down that slope, down the mountain if you will, into the covered structure and then spreading it out. From there, rakes, shovels, etc. will be used, different tools by the searchers. They'll be stripping open bags as necessary. And along the way, they will be looking for remains, of course, but they'll also be looking for clues as to which part of the deposit we're looking at. So if there's a receipt there that has a date on it, if it's May 16, 2022, all right, let's look very carefully here because we know we're close. If there's stuff that's been discarded from businesses that we know were near the area where the landfill material was collected from the garbage bin, again, we know that we're close, we're getting warmer here. So there's a very sophisticated plan that has been developed by the engineers and technical experts that are working on this, but at the end of the day, what we hope that the families see, we hope that the general public sees, is that there's a very thorough attempt made to do the compassionate thing here, which is to recover the remains of Morgan Harris and Marcedes Myran.
It's a fascinating process you outline. It's a blend of forensics and archaeology in some ways, right? Using the technical data from the waste companies to figure out where to look and roughly when it could be, and then picking through the clues that you uncover as you start to dig.
No, that's exactly right. But at the end of the day, it's being guided by the values of compassion for the families and interest in what is the just thing to do here. And I mean just in the broadest possible term, like just in terms of what our society values and what is the message that we want to send to young people in our province, that we want to send to women in our province, Indigenous women in particular as it pertains to this case. And the message that all of these technical steps, when you aggregate them together into their entirety, is that Manitoba is a place that doesn't leave anyone behind. If someone goes missing, we are going to come looking, and we are going to put in the work to ensure that we show the dignity and the value of every life in this province.
Just as a final point, Premier, I mean this trial and the stories of these missing women, it's put a spotlight on many of the issues that were highlighted in the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls inquiry and these issues that we've been talking about throughout this conversation. I know there's no guarantee this will work, but it seems that it's important to show that you will try every reasonable effort to do it. And I just wonder, as the country still grapples with what is happening here, how important it is to say to the rest of the country and to the people of Winnipeg and the people of Manitoba that this search is going ahead despite the costs, despite the obstacles, and despite the challenges.
Well, this is a question of who do we want to be as Manitobans and as Canadians. And I don't know about you, but I want to live in a place where if someone goes missing, we go looking. That if someone's life is on the line, that we're going to make the attempt to save them. And so yes, we are going to search the landfill, but we're also going to put in the work to try and prevent things like this from happening in the future. So we've got $20 million in the budget on those prevention initiatives as well. We've got investments in healthcare and in the economy to try and bring about that more inclusive society where more people can talk about living to their full potential rather than mourning their loved ones who we've lost in tragic circumstance. So it's a comprehensive approach that we're trying to take. Searching the landfill is part of it, and as we go through this period of Manitoba's history together, the story that we're trying to author is one of unity and one of this being one Manitoba, one province where each of us has dignity and value.
Premier Wab Kinew, appreciate the time, and I hope the search goes well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. So do I.
For the families of the victims who have been advocating for a landfill search for over 2 years, this announcement from the province has been a long time coming. Donna Bartlett is Marcedes Myran's grandmother, and she joins me now. Donna Bartlett, it's good to meet you. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You heard what Premier Wab Kinew had to say. Based on what he said about the extent of the search, how confident are you that everything possible will be done to find your granddaughter?
I believe it'll be done, and I trust that he's going to do it. And I'm actually very excited that he's already started on it. So I do believe it's going to be done completely, and hopefully we do find our girls.
It's been a long fight to get to this point. How did it feel when the Premier finally confirmed that they would greenlight the search of the landfill?
It felt exciting. We were just happy, me and my family, her sister, her mom, we were all excited. We were just elated that it's actually going to get done now. It's been a rough 2 years.
The Premier said that they've already started working on a building at the landfill site that can be used by the families as the search is going on. Do you think you will be there with regularity? Will you be playing any kind of a direct role in this search?
I will probably be there, and I know some of my family members want to help in the search, like get trained for it and work at it. And I will probably be there. Maybe I can cook something for the workers or whatever at the house. But I do plan to be there quite a bit.
The Premier suggested that they have a good idea of where to start looking, that based on the analysis they've done of the site and the delivery dates from the trucks that would go there, they think they have an idea of where to look. How optimistic are you that this can succeed? I know they're going to try, but there's no guarantee, he says.
Yeah, there never is a guarantee, but I'm very optimistic and I'm very hopeful. It's a step forward, and I believe that they'll find them.
You say it's been a very difficult 2 years since your granddaughter went missing. What do you want people to know about Marcedes Myran? We talk about them as a group of missing women, but what do you want people to know about Marcedes as an individual?
Marcedes, she was a very happy person. She liked to play jokes. She always smiled. She was always happy, smiling and playing jokes. And even on me, when she was growing up, she would hide my purse or my shoes so I couldn't leave when I go visit. And I raised her for a little bit too. So one time I left her at her mom's. I told her I want to have a rest that night, so I left her at her mom's for the night, and she was just angry with me. So she was actually a very happy girl, and she loved her children dearly. She would have did anything for them.
The search is happening now after what you call a very difficult 2 years. You say you're hopeful that they're gonna find her. What would it mean for you and your family to bring Marcedes Myran home?
It would mean a lot, because then we'd be able to put her in her final resting spot, and the children will know, like the children are asking when she's coming home, they want her home. And we already had a funeral for her, for the children's sake, families sake, trying to say goodbye. It's an empty coffin, but we have momentums in it. And so we told them they want to go back to the gravesite to visit their mom. So hopefully when they bring her home, there'll be a lot more rewarding towards them and understanding, and make things a lot easier in the long run, because then we won't have to worry about where she is.
She can finally be at peace, and you can finally be at peace.
Yes, and so will the children. They can finally say, oh yeah, we're visiting our mom. We don't have to go to the landfill to visit her. We can just go home and see her, visit her.
This was a really contentious issue during your last provincial election in Manitoba, Donna. It came about cost and whether it was worth it and all of these things. And Premier Kinew now, there's $40 million that he thinks can cover this from the federal and provincial government all the way into 2026. What does it say to you that it's gotten to this point, that after being such a contentious political issue, the federal and provincial governments have stepped up to do this search?
I'm glad that they're doing it. I know Stephenson just straight out said no. And it bothered me that she didn't care, but she wore that red dress pendant on her jacket. To me, that was wrong. And I am happy that they're doing it now. It means a lot to me and the family for the search to be done.
What message do you think it sends to the community in Winnipeg, to the province of Manitoba, and to the people of Canada, that the Premier would back these sorts of lengths to do this search?
It means a lot, and it means like everybody matters. It doesn't matter what color you are, who you are, if you're poor, rich, whatever. It just means that every person matters, every human being. And they will look for them right away. They won't leave them out anywhere.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
No, it does.
Oh, okay.
It does. And just as a final point, there's going to be a healing center set up near the landfill site, and some gatherings are planned for this weekend, a powwow for Morgan Harris's birthday. What is your sense of being able to have these events now that the search has been greenlit and things can finally start to move ahead?
It's a lot better because now we don't have to go and do these protests on the street and saying, go and search a landfill. Now we know they're going to search. And it's very relieving and we're very happy that it's going to be done. Not saying that they'll find them, but I've got all the hope in the world that they will find them and bring them home. And it makes it easier to celebrate their birthdays knowing that they're going to come home.
Donna Bartlett, it was very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us, and good luck with the search. I hope they find Marcedes and do bring her home. Thank you very much.
Thank you.